Hello, my beautiful first graders. Today we're going to be reading a book about sea otters. Do you know anything about sea otters? What do you know about them? And if you don't know anything, well, then you found the right video because we're going to read about them and we're going to learn some cool facts about sea otters. Before we start reading, though, I want to talk about what kind of book this is. This book is a non-fiction book. Non-fiction means it's not fake, right? It's not make-believe. It's true. So everything we're going to read about is true. It's non-fiction. Non-fiction means it's true. All right. So this week, or actually earlier today, we read about the 6 kids. And we talked a little bit about where they live. Today, as we read the story about sea otters, I want you to think about where sea otters live, okay? I want you to think about where sea otters live and how do they stay alive where they live. So you're going to ask yourself 2 questions as we read. Where do sea otters live? And how do they stay alive where they live? How do they stay alive? How do they survive? Think about it. Okay, say it with me. Where do sea otters live? And how do they survive? Where do they live? How do they survive? So as we're reading, you're going to be thinking those little wheels are going to be spinning, spinning, spinning. Pay close attention, okay? So the title is Sea Otters, and the author is Laura Marsh. It's a sea otter. What dives and plays in the water all day? What floats on its back when it eats a snack? What has a flat tail, but is not a whale? A sea otter. We have some rhyming words there. Plays, day, back, snack, tail, whale. Cool. What is a sea otter? Sea otters are mammals. They live in the cold Pacific Ocean. So this is the Pacific Ocean right here by where we live. So if we go to our oceans, we can sometimes see sea otters. Otter word. Mammal is an animal that feeds its baby milk. It has a backbone and is warm-blooded. So a sea otter is a mammal. Otters are fun to watch. They like to play with each other. They dive and they splash. Let's look at the picture. This right here is called a caption. It tells us a little bit about the picture. So here it says, sometimes sea otters live in zoos or aquariums. They might have been hurt or sick in the wild. Otters get help there. So are you thinking about the 2 questions that I asked you? Where do sea otters live? And how do they survive where they live? Do you know the answer to any of those yet? Where do they live? And how do they survive where they live? Life in the sea. Sea otters live close to shore. They find small animals to eat there. Sea otters dive to the ocean floor. They swim through kelp forests. They need lots of food and clean water to live. So this is kelp. And they go all the way to the bottom. Kelp is a kind of large seaweed that has a long stalk. It can grow into underwater forests, like this one. So you'll see a lot of them deep in the ocean. So where do sea otters live? And how do they survive? Did we learn anything here? Built for hunting. A sea otter's body is perfect for hunting in the water. Will this give us any information? Pay close attention. Tail. The tail helps steer the otter through the water. So they use their tail to get through the water, to steer. Back legs, they are webbed like flippers. They help the otter swim and dive. So just like we paddle our feet when we swim, they have their legs. They use them like flippers. Fur. Thick fur keeps the otters warm. Body. A long body helps the otter glide through the water. Glide means it just goes across. Eyes. Good eyesight helps the otter find food. So they have good eyesight to find food. Nostrils. They close underwater to keep water out. Ooh, that's awesome. When we go underwater, water gets in our nose, right? And it makes it hard to be underwater for long. But they can close their nostrils so that water doesn't get in. Mouth. Sharp teeth tear off bits of food. And front paw. They feel and grab their food. Boys and girls, I think there's some good information here. What helps the otter survive? How do they stay alive? Snack time. This is a shrimp. This is a scallop. This is a sea urchin. Ooh, those are spiky. This is a crab. And this is a squid. Sea otters eat small animals. They eat more than 40 different kinds. More than 40. They munch on clams, crabs, squid, urchins, and other animals. Sea otters have favorite foods, just like you. So these are some of their favorite foods. The girl's eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. How many of you eat these for snack? I don't. A sea otter cracks open the shell to eat the animal inside. So here we have another caption. It tells us a little bit about the picture. So the sea otter is opening the shell to eat the animal that's inside of the shell. Sea otters eat their meals above the water. They lie on their backs. They use their stomachs as plates. But they don't use a knife and fork. Sea otters use rocks to crack open hard shells. I think there's some good information there too. My two questions were, where do sea otters live and how do they survive? So what's another way that they survive? Scrub-a-dub. Do you like to stay clean? How many of you shower every day? Sea otters like to stay clean. They groom themselves for hours every day. They scrub their faces. And bodies with their paws. They also somersault, twist and turn. So they somersault, they twist and turn. This washes food scraps off their bodies. Their fur must stay clean to be warm. Groom means to clean themselves by scrubbing, licking, or biting. So they make sure to groom themselves every day. And look, we find here, their fur has to stay clean in order for them to stay warm. Fuzzy fur. It's hard to stay warm in the cold water, but sea otter's fur is up to the job. It is thicker than any other animal's fur. The fur has 2 layers. 2 layers means like 2 coats. So here's 1 layer and here's another layer. So they have 2 layers. The outside layer keeps the cold water out. The inside layer stays warm and dry. Kind of like a raincoat. Have you ever worn a raincoat? The outside just keeps the water off and then the inside is nice and warm. So it's kind of like they're 2 layers. The inside's nice and warm and then the outside keeps the water and the cold out. 6 cool facts about sea otters. 1. Sometimes sea otters hold hands. Well, paws. They have paws, not hands. How sweet. 2. Sea otters can hold their breath for about 5 minutes. Most people can't do this for more than 1 minute. So we can only hold our breath for about 1 minute. They can hold their breath for 5 minutes. They are members of the weasel. So this is a weasel. They don't live in the ocean, but they look a lot like sea otters because they're part of the same family. 4, they eat 10 pounds or more of food every day. This gives them energy to swim and hunt. 10 pounds of food, but they move a lot, right? So they kind of need all that food and energy. 5, they are the smallest sea mammals in the world. Remember we said a mammal is a type of animal. Now, the mammals that live in the ocean, this is the smallest one. Sea otters have their own pockets. They put food in a pouch under each front leg and I can't see, uh-oh, boys and girls, I can't see that last part. I think it says while they hunt. So they store their food in 2 little pockets on their front legs. How cool is that? Playful pups. Baby sea otters are born in the water. They're called pups. Pups are about 2 feet long at birth. That's about as long as 2 cereal boxes. Look at that cute little sea otter. The mother teaches her pup how to swim, dive, and roll, but she does the hunting until the pup is older. A mother may wrap her pup in kelp when she dives. Then the pup will stay in one place while she is away. So she wraps him up in kind of a blanket of kelp. Remember, kelp is like seaweed. So that he stays floating while she goes away for a bit. Taking it easy. Sea otters live in groups called rafts. The groups are usually all boys or all girls. They spend lots of time together. They rest, groom. Remember, groom means keep themselves clean, and eat. Otters and rafts often wrap themselves in kelp too. They may sleep like this side by side. So they kind of use the kelp like little blankets to keep them floating while they sleep. Watching out for otters. Scientists are busy studying sea otters. They want to know how otters live and eat. They want to learn about otters that have gotten sick or hurt too. Then they can help. Scientists do know that pollution hurts sea otters. Keeping pollution out of the ocean helps sea otters stay healthy. So pollution is when we throw all the trash in the ocean, right? That harms all the sea animals because sometimes they get caught in it, they can eat it, and then that hurts their tummies, right? So all of that pollution, we need to not throw our trash in the oceans or on the floor. We need to throw them in the trash can because then we hurt animals like the sea otters. The scientist weighs a sea otter at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So the scientist is taking care of this sea otter. Okay, now that we're done, I want you to think about my 2 questions. Where do sea otters live? And how do they stay alive where they live? How do they survive? They gave us a lot of information. So I want you to think of at least 2 ways. How do they survive? So I'm going to give you one example, but you need to come up with your own. Okay. One way that sea otters survive is by, where did it go? We learned about all the food they eat. So one way that sea otters survive is by eating animals like shrimp, squid, sea urchins, crabs, and scallops. So that's one way that I know that they survive. But if we look through the book, there were other things that help them survive. What other things help sea otters survive where they live? And where do they live? Hmm. How do they survive where they live? Hmm. Alrighty, I want you to think about those things. You're going to record a video for me telling me where they live, and you're going to give me 2 ways that they survive where they live. Okay? Good job. Use your noodles. And I can't wait to hear your answers.